Good afternoon, you guys. It's your boy Ben Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC and the basketball community. Don't miss basketball conversations right here on this channel, Friday nights, 9 p.m. Central Time, where we discuss, basketball-related news, history, and everything else in between about basketball. And that's tonight, 9 p.m. Central Time. So make sure to tune in to that, though, guys. You understand what I'm saying? And continue to support the channel though too. Make sure to share my videos out there to your social media platforms and spread the word about my channel. You understand what I'm saying? So with that out the way, let's get down to business here about the whole Zion Williamson lawsuit situation. Now, I am going to warn you off the rip that it's a very long and complicated lawsuit, and I am not a legal expert or anything like that. So don't take my word for it or anything of my opinions for verbatim here. So, stick with me as we try to, dissect and I try to explain to you guys what the heck's going on here. But apparently, Zion Wilson is basically involved in a legal suit with a former agent from his home state of North Carolina. Okay, her name is Gina Ford, who basically filed a lawsuit. You know, basically saying that Williamson breached a contract between the two of them and signed with a different agency company. Okay, and according to this article here that I'm reading here, it says that the document asks Williamson to confirm or deny several interrogatories that, if answered in the affirmative, would admit that he knew that his family received payments and or benefits before and during his time when he was in Duke University. And the document also alleges that Duke, Nike, and Adidas offered said payments and benefits, which is an ongoing $100 million legal battle between Williamson and Ford. Okay, now let's get down to the business here about the Zion Williamson and Gina Ford lawsuits. Okay, and I've written some of the notes here too as I'm reading these articles here. So, before you declaring for his status for the NBA draft, Zion Williamson basically signed a contract with Gina Ford, who is the president of Prime Sports Marketing, to basically handle his endorsement deals. Okay, so basically he signed a contract with this legal firming company. Okay, and basically her job was to try to handle all of his endorsement deals and everything else in between. Um, Allegedly in the suit, Williamson broke the contract and signed with a different agency called the Creative Arts Agency. Okay, and Ford contacted that agency asking for mediation, or she'll file a lawsuit. Okay, then what happens next was Williamson filed a lawsuit against Prime Sports Marketing, claiming that the contract with Prime Sports was never enforceable because Prime Sports did not follow the guidelines of the North Carolina Uniform Athletic Agency Act, and warns Williamson of potential eligibility issues. Okay, now what is uh, the North Carolina Uniform Athlete Agency Act? Well, I kind of researched a bit about this one though. It basically states that let me check this out real quick as I pull this up real quick. There you go. Basically, it requires that any individual acting as an athlete agent in North Carolina must be registered to the offices of the state. Okay, so therefore, what Williamson is claiming is that this agency did not file those regulations from the North Carolina Uniform Agency Act, and basically that contract is basically null and void. Okay, now this really gets twisted here when basically the following week she countersued filing in Florida, arguing that Williamson breached his contract when he signed with the CAA agents. Her lawyers are arguing that he willfully and knowingly signed the document, and that the North Carolina Uniform Agency Act does not apply because Williamson had already declared for the NBA draft with no intentions on returning to Duke. All right. So the big question for her side is that Ford's lawyers must prove clear questioning whether Williamson was paid during his time in Duke, therefore making him ineligible as an NCAA athlete. Okay, so there's a little bit more information I got here from this article from SportingNews.com. Okay, so go ahead and check that out for yourselves. So basically, Williamson, uh, Williamson basically broke that contract, however, on May 30th of that same year. All right, and basically everything else in between. Now, but for the reports from the Athletic, Ford, who claims Usain Bolt is the most climbable athlete, has formed her business several times over, and that includes an August 2018 interaction called MIG Sports and Entertainment, in which she partnered with former NFL players like Adkin Ayoloki and Mushud, a former financial advisor who was one of 10 men arrested in FBI in September 2017 as part of a federal college basketball corruption investigation. Okay? But 27 days after forming MAG, Sud pled guilty to federal counts of conspiracy to commit bribery, payments of bribe, and to a federal agent, and wire fraud conspiracy. MIG was dissolved with no business transacted. Okay? But according to more reports that I also found there too, Williamson's attorneys in an August filing described Ford as predatory in her pursuit of Williamson. They alleged that she grossly exaggerated her work with athletes, including Usain Bolt, for for whom Ford was merely a member of his representing team. Those filings also claimed that Ford repeatedly texted Williamson's relatives and twice visited Duke to approach his family, despite requests to refrain from doing so. All right. So now we're going to read into Ford's countersuit against Williamson. So she filed a countersuit a day before Williamson was selected by the Pelicans as the number one overall pick in the 2019 draft, stating that he breached the contract with Prime Sports when he signed with the CAA. Okay, and basically claimed that her damages excess over $100 million. All right. So you guys, I already explained to the fact that that if Ford contended that the contract was between Prime Sports and Williamson and was not voided by the North Carolina Athletic Agency Act, and because Williamson already declared for the draft, so by then the NCAA had passed more lax rules on players' relationship with agents. Per NCAA rules, players can declare for the draft and associates with agents certified by the NBPA and the NCAA while determining whether to jump to the NBA. They can retain their eligibility as long as they swerve their relationship with their agent upon returning to college. All right. But this is really where it gets twisted here. Williamson's lawyers argued that Ford filed in Florida to circumvent his original lawsuit against her in North Carolina, where the case clearly belongs. Williamson grew up in North Carolina, played college basketball, and played as one of the premier universities, and was approached by Prime Sports as well. Now, Ford's team also filed another document in federal court Friday when she alleged she wired $100,000 to Williamson's stepfather. In the filing, she allegedly Williamson demanded an intermediate contract advance upon signing his contract with Prime Sports contract. Okay. Now here's a little tweet there from Dan Wallace, who's basically a game law and sporting money attorney as well as the legal analyst for the Athletic. Here's this tweet. An ex-agent said that she wired $100,000 to Zion Williamson's stepfather's bank account within days after he entered the exclusive marketing agreement. She said that Zion had demanded an intermediate contract and advance upon signing the contract. All right. So that's what the tweet said. Okay. So this is really long and complicated lawsuit. So on September 27th of 2019, Williamson's lawyers filed two suits against Prime Sports, one in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Miami-Dade County, and one in the U.S. District Court for Middle District of North Carolina. The first was to dismiss Prime Sports' case against him. The second was oppose Ford's motion to dismissal of Williamson's original lawsuit. Both parties request for the dismissal of each other's suits, which had been denied. All right. So now the big question is, what do Ford's interrogatories specifically ask for Williamson? Well, the interrogatories relate to the residence on which his mother's Sharona Lee and basically his stepfather Lee Anderson lived while Williamson attended Duke University, including who owned it, who paid for it, and how much it cost. It also asks Williamson's knowledge about his parents and incentives from Duke, Nike, Adidas to influence where he would play college basketball. See, this is where it really gets fucked up here, okay? Listen. This is where I've been on the record been saying, like, listen, you just got to pay these athletes and really make this simple, because all this doing is just basically you're wasting the FBI's time with all this investigating work. But here's where the interrogatories filed in Miami. Here's where the questions are going to be coming into play. Who owned the house in which Williamson's parents, lived during his time in Duke? fully state all the facts on how his parents found and paid for the house in which they lived during that time when he attended Duke University. ID by landlord name, address, telephone number, and monthly rental rate. The property that you and your family lived through your time during Duke University. Before attending Duke, did you, did him, or any of your acting on your behalf, including but not limited to his parents and her and her mother's consulting agency, or any other person intermittently, directly or indirectly, accepted money, benefits, favors, or other things of value to induce your insiders to you and to select Duke University as your cause for your undergrad study. Before attending Duke University, did you or anyone acting on your behalf, including to but not limited to, his parents or any other people that accepted any other monies or favors of things to wear Nike shoes or any other products? See, this is really just getting petty and ridiculous. So let me keep reading. Before attending Duke University, did you or anyone acting on your behalf, all right, accepted money, benefits, and favors and other things to value or induce your incentives to you to wear Adidas tennis shoes and other products? All right. Now, what this legal expert from the Athletics basically says during his tweet, he says Zion Williamson will not have to answer those requests for admission or categories, at least for not several months. They were filed in Florida in a lawsuit, and that is on hold against him while he challenges the personal jurisdiction on the appeal. He's under no obligation to answer them, which I totally agree with. Why the hell does he need to answer those kind of questions? All right. So, but Ford's legal team is basically saying in that suit, he didn't offer a clear answer to the Athletic on asking if the team had any evidence that Williamson or anyone on his behalf received interpermissible benefits. See, now you're really getting into the fact of, oh, did you guys receive anything, or did the school receive any gifts or any type of money or things of that sort to bring Zion Williamson into the school? You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different stuff there that I'm sure you guys, you know, look up for yourselves. But the question is, if Zion Williamson basically received those benefits, what would affect his suit? Now, here's where Ford's interrogatories come into play. If Ford can prove that Williamson received payments and/or benefits before and during his time at Duke, he would be no longer the protection under the North Carolina Athletic Act Association. Okay, I should say what's it? The North Carolina Uniform Act Agents Act. Okay, so therefore, the entire basis of the Williams suit against Prime Sports would make it much more easier for Ford to win the suit. All right. So if basically she can prove that Williamson, received impermissible benefits from from both Nike and Adidas and the CAA during his time at Duke, then he's no longer under protection. But my question is, why in the hell? What does it permit to you to be filing for this lawsuit? And here's another twist, though, because there's another person I named as Cedric Johnson, I should say Sedgwick Johnson. I'm not going to butcher his names because he was a former basketball player at Louisiana Monroe and basically was a military between Williamson and Ford. And basically, he was the guy that introduced, Gina Ford to Zion Williamson. Okay. And Johnson, who claims to know Williamson since he was a junior in high school, also filed a suit against Ford in March, claiming that he was promised 5% cut for his work. All right. This is really a messy lawsuit, to be honest with you. And basically, it's no thwarting that Johnson and Ford have shared interest in the latter in winning his suit against Williamson. If Williamson's Prime Sports contract is voided, then Johnson receives nothing. The two are scheduled for mediation later on this week. Per the report from the Athletic. Listen, let me drink some water while before I give my 2 cents on the entire situation, because this is a very complicated and messy situation. And again, I am not a legal expert, so don't take my word for it. I'm just going off of what I see. Okay, the suit is going to rely on the fact that if Miss Ford can prove to the fact that Williamson received those impermissible benefits from both Duke, Adidas, and Nike. All right. And if that were to be the case, then that would mean a whole other can of worms, because then I think that it would involve the NCAA looking into the investigation of the Duke program. And that's something that a lot that is going to have my most attention, because if there's one program that that's been proven to have a clean reputation throughout its history, it's been Duke University. All right, I'm yet to see any kind of investigation on Duke University or anything else in between. And the other thing too is that this goes along the lines of what I believed in about college athletics from the beginning of time. These college athletes just need to get paid for their time in school. All right, it doesn't matter if you're from Division 1, Division 2, whatever level of NCAA athletics that you're in. Listen, I don't care if you're from a big school or from a small school. You should get paid to the net worth value of your sport. All right, that's what I believe in, because we are seeing a lot of these cases all the time. And and I know there's going to be somebody that's like, well, why did he accept all the benefits and all that? Listen, when you're basically a highlighted covered athlete like a Zion Williamson, everything is going to be offered to you, and everything sounds appealing. All right, and this it just feels unfortunate that Zion Williamson and had basically had to provide help, get a house for them, for his family and all that. I'm never against that. Listen, the NCAA doesn't provide you anything, and they don't give you any benefits or nothing like that. I'm always for that. Now, this would be a entirely different ball game if this would be, academic fraud. Then it would be a entirely different ball game. Okay, but I think the way I look at it is, Cena's going to have to really prove that, before declaring for the draft, that basically Zion Williamson breached her previous contract, but when he signed with the Creative Arts Agency. All right. So that's what I think is going to come down to. If she can prove that Zion Williamson basically, received, illegal benefits, I should say illegal with the quotation marks, benefits from those two other sporting agencies with Nike and Adidas, and from Duke University, then his protections under the North Carolina, Agency Act are basically null and void, and therefore he becomes ineligible as an NCAA athlete. And basically, this is going to have to open up another can of worms revolving around the Duke program as well. So I think that Duke is going to have to answer some questions though too. But the other thing that really shook my head is that, you know, Duke University released a statement, a couple of days, when these reports were coming out, and basically said that, okay, we basically, when filing a thorough investigation with an agency outside of the program, and we found no evidence of wrongdoing, which I took it as an absolute crock of shit. All right, there's no way. Listen, you cannot tell me that there's no other way that you found no wrongdoing or anything like that. I just don't believe that at all. I think it's going to come down to is, can she prove that Zion Williamson basically breached the contract and basically decided to turn his back on her and basically join another agency program. That's what I think it's going to come down to. And I just don't see her winning the lawsuit. I think that this goes scot free and Zion Williamson gets untouched, because quite frankly, though, bro, all this stuff came in, but after he declared for after he declared for the draft. So I think Zion Williamson wins this case, but I don't know. This is going to take a long time, and there's obviously a lot of complicated factors that are going to probably come into play. But like I said, I'm not a legal expert or anything like that. I'm just speaking out of my own 2 cents. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Does Gina Ford, the former agent of Zion Williamson, have a case, or do you think Zion has a case based on the evidence that has been presented there? I'm going to post the 2 articles in the comment section, so you guys can look at it yourselves, so that way you can get a grasp and understanding of what's going on here. But stay tuned for more videos in the near future, guys. Peace.